It was supposed to be a simple drive, just 4 hours north, through the mountains, to deliver some supplies for a research station in White Pines. But when the storm hit, none of it felt simple anymore. Evan had been driving for 6 hours already. The snow had started around dusk, soft and harmless at first, but now it was a whiteout. Thick flakes swallowing the road, the pine trees bending in the wind like they wanted to snap. The headlights caught nothing but a blur of white. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles pale. The radio had gone to static an hour ago. His phone had no signal since he'd passed the last gas station 40 miles back. Just a few more miles, he muttered to himself. White Pines should be close. He'd driven these roads before, or thought he had. But now every turn looked the same. Every sign was half buried in snow. He slowed down when a dark shape appeared up ahead. A car, off to the side of the road, hazard lights flashing weakly through the storm. He hesitated. Stopping in this kind of weather wasn't smart, but leaving someone out here wasn't right either. Evan pulled over and stepped out, the wind cutting through his coat instantly. "Hello?" he called. "You need help?" No answer. He approached the car, a black SUV. The driver's door was open. Inside, the seats were covered in a thin layer of snow. The headlights were still on, engines still humming. "Hello?" he said again, louder. Then he saw it. Footprints leading away from the car, into the woods. Bare footprints. Evan's heart skipped. "Who walks barefoot in a storm?" he whispered. He leaned into the SUV, a purse on the passenger seat, still zipped, a cell phone beside it, screen cracked but on. The battery was almost dead. The wallpaper showed a woman and a child, smiling. Then he noticed something else. On the dashboard, scratched into the frost of the windshield with a fingertip. "Don't follow the tracks." He stepped back, staring. The message was smeared, almost erased by the condensation. But it was there. The wind howled louder. Somewhere deep in the forest, a branch cracked. Evan got back into his truck, slammed the door, and locked it. His breath fogged up the window. He should drive. Keep moving. That's what any sane person would do. But he couldn't shake the thought of those barefoot prints. What if someone was out there freezing to death? He turned off the headlights and sat for a second, letting his eyes adjust to the darkness. The forest beyond the road looked endless, black trunks and blowing snow. Then he saw movement, something pale between the trees, a figure, standing, watching. Evan blinked, leaned forward. The figure didn't move. It was just there. A woman, maybe? He couldn't tell. The storm distorted everything. He reached for his flashlight, stepped out again, calling out, "Hey, are you hurt?" The figure turned and bolted into the woods. Evan hesitated only a second before following. The snow swallowed his boots with every step. The beam of his flashlight bounced between trees, catching glimpses of movement ahead. Long hair, a white nightgown whipping in the wind. "Wait!" he shouted. "Stop!" She didn't. She ran deeper into the woods until the flashlight flickered, once, twice, and died. Darkness. Evan cursed, tapping it, but the batteries were gone. He turned in circles, trying to find the road, but it was gone too. Just endless trees. The storm screamed around him. Then he saw a light, faint, orange, flickering through the snow. A cabin, maybe. He stumbled toward it, half frozen, his breath heavy clouds in the air. When he reached it, he found an old hunting cabin, small, half buried in snow. The door was open, swinging on its hinges. Inside, a lantern burned weakly on the table. "Hello?" he called, stepping in. The place smelled of smoke and iron. There were coats hanging by the wall, too many for one person, and on the table next to the lantern, a small handprint in blood. Evan froze. Then he heard it, soft crying from the back room. "Hello?" He whispered again, his voice trembling. "It's okay, I can help." The crying stopped. He moved closer, each step crunching in the frozen air. He pushed open the back door. The room was empty, just an old bed, broken glass, and a boarded window. But written on the wall in what looked like charcoal were the words, "They wear your face." Evan backed away slowly. His flashlight flickered to life again for a second, and in that second, he saw movement outside the cabin. Someone was walking around the truck. He ran to the front window. His truck was there, barely visible through the snow. A tall figure stood beside it, opening the driver's door. Evan squinted. The man looked exactly like him. Same jacket, same hat, even the same posture. "What the hell?" he whispered. The figure turned toward the cabin. Their eyes met, and Evan froze. The man outside smiled. Then he lifted his hand and waved. Exactly the way Evan had waved to the woman before. Evan turned, searching for another way out. The back door, locked. The window, nailed shut. He looked for his phone, but it had no signal. The lantern flickered lower. Then outside, he heard his truck start. The engine roared, headlights cutting through the snow. A horn honked, twice. Evan ran to the window, shouting, "Stop! That's my truck!" But the man behind the wheel, the copy, only smiled wider. And in the passenger seat, something shifted. A shape. Long hair. Bare feet. Evan ran out into the storm, screaming, stumbling after the taillights as they faded into the white. He chased until his legs gave out, until the sound of the engine vanished. And then, only the storm remained. When the snow stopped by morning, search teams found the abandoned SUV, the same one Evan had stopped by. But his own truck was gone, and so was he. Weeks later, a road worker found a single boot buried in the snow 10 miles away, near a burned-out cabin. Inside the boot was a folded piece of paper. On it, scrawled in shaky handwriting, "Don't follow the tracks." The snow had started falling again by the time the bus reached the final stop. Black Hollow Lodge, population 12. Rachel stepped off the bus, clutching her duffel bag, watching the taillights disappear down the one road out. The silence that followed was suffocating. Just wind, trees, and the low groan of the lodge sign swaying above her. She hadn't planned to come back here, not after what happened 10 years ago. But when the email came, offering $600 a day to photograph the renovation of the old hunting lodge, she couldn't say no. Money was tight, and memories, she thought, could stay buried. The caretaker met her at the door, an older man with a limp and a heavy parka. "Name's Ben Kessler," he said. "I'm the only one here till spring. You the photographer?" "Yeah," Rachel said, stamping snow from her boots. "Just need a place to drop my things." He led her through the creaking halls. The place was half renovated, half decaying. Some rooms had new drywall and insulation. Others still showed the old log beams and peeling wallpaper. "You'll be in room 4, Ben said, handing her a brass key. "Power's unreliable, but the generator works fine if you don't push it. Dinner's at 7. After that, the wind gets bad, so stay inside." She smiled politely. "Got it." Ben didn't smile back. He just said, "Don't wander the east wing, floor's unstable," and limped away. The first night was calm. Rachel unpacked her camera gear and started taking test shots of the main hall. The deer heads on the wall, the frosted windows, the warped piano in the corner. Everything had that faded, forgotten beauty she loved to capture. But around midnight, while she was editing in her room, the power flickered. Then she heard it. Footsteps in the hall. Slow, heavy. She froze. "Ben?" she called. No answer. The steps stopped outside her door. Then a whisper. Faint. Almost like it came through the wood itself. "You shouldn't be here." Rachel stood, heart racing, staring at the handle. Then silence. She opened the door. The hall was empty. But there were wet footprints in the snow that led down the hall. Barefoot, small, like a child's. The next morning, she found Ben chopping wood behind the lodge. His face was unreadable when she told him. "Probably wind, or your imagination," he said. "This place plays tricks on people when they're alone." "I saw footprints," she insisted. Ben paused, leaning on his axe. "In this cold, you'd be dead in minutes barefoot." He looked at her for a moment longer than felt normal, then said quietly, "If you hear anything again, don't answer it." Then he went back to chopping. By the second night, the storm hit. The radio forecast said it would last 3 days. Whiteout conditions, road closed until Monday. Rachel worked by lantern light, trying to distract herself, but the wind outside howled like voices. Then, somewhere deep in the walls, she heard knocking. 3 slow knocks, then a pause, then 3 more. It was coming from the east wing, the one Ben said not to enter. She grabbed her flashlight. "Screw this," she muttered, stepping into the hall. The east wing smelled of rot and dust. Her boots crunched on old plaster. The wallpaper had bubbled and peeled in the cold. She followed the sound, faint, rhythmic, like someone tapping from inside the wall. When she reached the last door, she froze. It was sealed shut with new planks. On the wood, someone had written in black marker, "Do not open, sealed by order of the sheriff's deputy." Rachel's stomach dropped. What the hell happened here? She leaned in, pressing her ear to the door. The knocking stopped. Then, a whisper. "Rachel?" Her blood ran cold. She stumbled back. That voice, she hadn't heard it in years. Her sister's voice. Her dead sister's voice. 10 years ago, Rachel and her twin, Emily, had gone missing for 2 days during a family vacation at Black Hollow Lodge. When search teams found them, Rachel was half frozen but alive. Emily wasn't. Rachel could never explain what happened. She only remembered snow, screams, and her sister's hand slipping from hers in the dark. Everyone called it an accident, but Rachel remembered something else, something behind her in the blizzard, something that spoke in Emily's voice. She thought she'd imagined it, until now. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat in her bed, clutching her camera, listening. At 3:14 a.m., the knocking started again, closer this time. And when she turned her head toward the mirror across the room, she saw Emily standing behind her reflection, pale and dripping with snow. Rachel screamed, spinning around, but the room was empty. When she looked back at the mirror, her reflection wasn't moving. It just smiled. By morning, she was shaking. She went to find Ben, but the back door was wide open and his footprints led into the storm. Gone. The generator was dead. The temperature was dropping fast. She packed her things, ready to hike out, until she saw something pinned to the wall by the exit. It was a Polaroid photo. Her and Emily 10 years ago, in front of the same lodge. Only now, in the photo, there was a third figure standing behind them. Tall, shadowed, with a distorted face. Rachel's hands trembled as she flipped it over. On the back, written in her own handwriting, "We said we'd never come back." The wind screamed outside. She lit one of the old lanterns and made her way back to the east wing. The sealed door was open now, boards ripped from the wall, lying in the snow-dusted hallway. Inside was a small room, 2 cots, a broken window, and on the far wall, hundreds of photographs, all of them of her. Different years, different hair, sleeping, working, laughing. Some were taken just days ago. Her flashlight flickered as she stumbled backward. Then a voice behind her said softly, "Smile." She turned and saw Ben, but his eyes weren't right. They were glassy, black, and unfocused. He held up an old camera. Click. Flash. The light blinded her for a second, and when her vision cleared, Ben was gone. Only the sound of the camera winding itself again filled the air. Click. Rachel ran. Down the stairs, through the hall, toward the main door, but it wouldn't budge. Something was holding it shut from the outside. The air was freezing, her breath fogging the room. The lantern went out. Then, in the dark, she saw the outline of someone standing by the window. Small, barefoot. "Emily?" she whispered. The figure stepped forward, and in the faint moonlight, Rachel saw her own face staring back. It smiled, then whispered, "You shouldn't be here." When the snowplows reached Black Hollow 3 days later, they found the generator still off, the door frozen shut. Inside, there was no sign of Rachel or Ben, only a camera on the table. The last photo showed 2 identical women standing in the east wing, one smiling, one terrified. Behind them, through the cracked window, the storm still raged. The storm came down hard that night. Thick sheets of snow swallowing the roads, the fences, even the orange glow of the gas station lights. Officer Lucas Brandt sat in his patrol car, watching the flakes pile up on the windshield, his heater wheezing weakly. It was close to midnight, and he was supposed to be heading back to the station in Oberhagen, a remote town tucked in the German Alps. But the call had come in 5 minutes earlier. Unidentified vehicle abandoned near kilometer marker 74, driver missing. In this weather, that usually meant one thing: someone had slid off the road and gotten lost. He radioed back, "Copy that, I'm on my way." When Lucas reached the spot, the snow was knee-deep. His headlights cut through a swirling wall of white. There it was, a black Audi half buried in the drift, doors open, engine still warm. No sign of the driver. He shone his flashlight around, only his own boot prints, and faint ones leading into the trees. Barely visible now, filling fast with snow. He called it in, but the radio only hissed. Too much interference from the storm. He hesitated, then muttered to himself, 5 minutes, then back, and followed the tracks into the forest. The woods were silent except for the crunch of his boots and the wind clawing at the branches. The footprints led straight, no stumbling. Whoever made them wasn't lost. They were heading somewhere. Then he saw it. A faint orange glow through the trees. A cabin. Lucas exhaled in relief. Maybe a stranded hiker found shelter. He approached cautiously, snow biting his face. The door was cracked open. Inside, the fire burned low, throwing flickering light across the small room. "Hello?" Lucas called. "Police." No response. He stepped in and froze. On the table lay a set of zip ties, duct tape, and a blood-stained scarf. Next to it, a woman's purse, torn open, snow melting around it. He turned, scanning the room. That's when he heard a muffled sob from the trap door near the stove. "Police!" he said, rushing over. He pulled the latch. The smell hit him first. Damp wood, iron, fear. A woman was tied up inside, half-conscious, her wrists raw. She flinched when she saw his uniform. "Please, don't. Not again." He cut her loose. "You're safe now. What happened?" But she only stared, shaking her head violently. "He's still here." The cabin door slammed shut. Lucas spun, drawing his pistol. "Who's there?" Silence. Then, footsteps above them. Slow, deliberate, pacing the floorboards. The woman whimpered, covering her ears. "He wears a police jacket," she whispered. "That's how he gets them to trust him." Lucas's blood turned to ice. He'd heard about cases like that. Imposters using fake badges to lure people in. He pointed his gun at the ceiling, moving toward the stairs. Each step creaked. "Show me your hands," he yelled. At the top landing, the dim light of a lantern swayed, and there, standing in the corner, was another man in a police jacket. The same uniform, the same patch, but the badge number was his own. "Who are you?" Lucas demanded. The man smiled faintly. "Same as you." "I said hands where I can see them." The man tilted his head. "You shouldn't have come here, Lucas. She was meant for you." Before Lucas could react, the man blew out the lantern, plunging everything into darkness. Lucas fired once. The shot echoed through the cabin, then silence. Snowflakes drifted through a cracked window. The light from outside was enough to see that the man was gone. The woman was screaming downstairs. Lucas grabbed her arm. "We're leaving now." He half-dragged her into the storm, back toward the road. But the snow was thicker now, a solid white curtain. He couldn't see 5 feet ahead. "Keep moving," he shouted over the wind. After 20 minutes, they reached the car. Lucas ripped open the door and stopped. The driver's seat was already occupied. A flashlight rolled across the dashboard, and sitting there, frozen stiff, was him. His own face, his own uniform. The skin was blue, eyes wide open in terror. The woman screamed. Lucas stumbled backward, dropping his gun. That's not... He looked at his own hands, his badge, the blood on his sleeve. He remembered driving up here. He remembered stepping out of the car. And then, nothing. Just snow. Endless snow. He turned back toward the woman, but she was gone. Her footprints led back toward the forest, and from deep in the trees came the echo of his own voice, calm and cold. "Stop right there, ma'am. Police." When the rescue teams reached kilometer marker 74 the next day, they found the Audi still running, doors open, headlights buried in snow. Inside, a woman sat wrapped in a blanket, muttering the same phrase again and again. "He said he was the police. He said he'd help me." There was no trace of Officer Lucas Brandt. But a week later, during another storm, a passing trucker swore he was stopped on that same road by a man in a patrol jacket. Same badge number, same face from the missing posters. He handed the trucker a warning for speeding in a snow zone, smiled, and walked back into the woods. No one has seen him since.